Good evening, everybody. My name is Giles, Giles Corbett, and I work for a French group called Orange that most of you know. Now, tonight's discussion is about product manager to CEO, etc. I'm not CEO of Orange, in case you hadn't noticed. So I'm sorry for the disappointment. But all the same, what I do want to go and tell you about is some of the stuff that I've experienced moving from product management roles into the position of CEO. I've been CEO for a couple of startups, one of them in France, a French company called Infusio that was mobile games company in the from 2000 2005, and then companies in Asia. And more recently, having sold out my participation in my last company, I decided that I was going to go back to the easy life. I was going to go back to the life of consultant, and I was just going to go and have a kind of portfolio life where I would advise a few people on stuff, and my life was going to be brilliant. But the problem is, I'm not very good at doing that. I mean, as a kid, I used to love Lego. I loved building things. And I think that's why I loved my time in startups. I love building companies. I like building products. I love building teams. And so my destiny as a consultant was actually pretty hopeless, and very rapidly I moved back into actually building things, and this time building it at Orange. So as you may be able to go and tell from the green logo, this is a pure Orange product, and what we've built is something called Libon, and if you guys haven't yet tried it, please do. Basically my remuneration for this evening is getting another 20 users. That's how desperate we are. But within Orange, I mean, seriously, it's the coolest, best project thing within the entire group. It's a team of people who are completely passionate about what they're doing, and the product, as a result, sort of succeeds, does well. It grows. Today it's growing at sort of many tens of thousands of new users a day, and it's just achieving the kind of results that I don't think any telecom operator in the world has managed to achieve on these kinds of products and services. And Libon is it's a kind of, it's a mix between Viber and WhatsApp, etc. It does it in a much nicer way. It does it better. And it's a nicer thing. And I'm going to talk a bit more about the product as I go through this, because at the end of the day, that is what so much of all of this is about.
Je sais pas si ça te dérange beaucoup de
Before I
monde.
move on,
I'm sorry if you don't mind if I do it in French.
Okay. I'm just
Ça va?
going to set the expectations. That is my slides done. Okay? So I'm now going to talk. But before I move on, I've got to go and own up to something. I don't like product management. And I don't really like product managers. It's not product managers I don't like. I think it's just managers in general. I just have this thing where when the activity is a management of something, I think that somewhere we've got something wrong. And, at the end of the day, what do? I manage a portfolio of risk. You can only manage things that you're pretty distant from, things that you don't feel, that you have some kind of, some kind of strong symbiosis with. Those are the things you manage. And what I'm constantly looking for is not people who manage, but people who do. People who are creating. I think, in fact, the French word chef de produit, in many senses, is much better than the English product management role. And I'm going to go and talk a bit about this. So, the first part of this discussion, this evening's discussion, is a movement from product creator, doer, curator, maybe. Let's talk about the product curator to the role of CEO. Why is the person who's able to go and do this potentially such a good candidate to CEO? And then afterwards, I'm going to actually look at why there's stuff that CEO does that could actually really benefit the way that our products are curated. When I started my very first job, when I say my first job, I mean my first real job. So my first job after I ceased to be a management consultant. I started off again in a French company, and this was a company that was then called La Société Française de Radiotéléphonie. And it's where all of the disgruntled engineers from La Compagnie Générale des Eaux, those who didn't manage to get real jobs in like waste recycling, ended up working. And the reason I joined this company was because a brand new directeur général had joined. And it's a guy called Alain Elkin. And I found that Alain was absolutely brilliant. And he came from Danone. And his idea was to go and transform the thing that was talking about standards and networks and et cetera, and to turn it into something that people wanted to use. And the first sign of it was a change from La Société Française de Radiotéléphonie as it became SFR. And Alain said one thing to me. He said, brand is strategy. Now, I'd just come out as 4 years as a strategy consultant, and I'd been through a business school. So I kind of felt that this was, slightly reductive. Brand is strategy. Come on, Alain. I mean, strategy is a lot more than that. But actually, as I worked with him for some years, I discovered how right he was when it comes to companies of the size of something like SFR, where actually you can go and embody the entire image of the company, of what it stands for, and therefore its roadmap and everything that it's doing behind this one concept of brand. But very rapidly, I got frustrated with my time there and my role and what I was doing, and I went into the startup world. And here, what I discovered is that this brand is strategy stuff is great by the time you've reached the size of Coke, or maybe Facebook now. But what about in a startup? Well, there's a definition of startup that I found absolutely brilliant. It's really simple. A startup is a company that's still in search of its business model. And really, I mean, as CEO of startups, this has made me feel a lot more at ease about a whole bunch of hang-ups and things that I hadn't yet got right. I was still at a stage where I was developing a company that was still in search of the way it was going to create and return value to its shareholders. And you know what? That was fine and it was acceptable, because if I knew how to go and return the value to the shareholders, then I wouldn't be a startup. I'd be a company. So, I mean, let's go and look at them. I mean, you can go and take many companies. You could argue that Twitter is still very much in its startup phase, and maybe it did its IPO too early, and the stock market definitely seems to believe that right now. But on the other hand, if I go and take the bakers that just opened last week downstairs from my hotel, it is by no means a startup. The baker knows exactly what his business model is. He knows how he's going to grow and expand his company and go and create value and return it. So if I go back to that idea of a startup being a company in search of its business model, then what has it got? At the end of the day, the only thing it has got is its product. The product is the only thing the company is. So one day, as we expand and become successful, maybe my equation becomes no longer... I said I only had... This is not true. I have another slide. Brand is strategy, and I can go and bracket it, and it kind of becomes product is the brand, is the strategy, is the company. And there I have this kind of beautiful osmosis where everything is perfectly aligned, and I become multi-billionaire. Now, I haven't yet done that, because if I had, maybe I would be trying to go and recruit even more users this evening. But anyway, right now, the bit that I have got to is this one, is the product is the company part. Now, if the product is the company, all of a sudden I have kind of demonstrated how the role of the person who is this product curator is ideally suited to be the person to go and drive the company forward, at least in those early days. And if he grows with the company, to carry on doing it. And the thing is really straightforward. If all the company is in the early days is its product, and when I say early days, I mean this could be for years still. If what the company is the product, then the person who knows that product, who lives it, who breathes it, who passionately owns it, is probably the best person to talk about it. I spend my time thinking about what is in Le Bon. There isn't a single feature, there isn't a single element, there isn't a single screen anywhere in the service that I don't know. I haven't designed them all, because we have designers who are much, much better at designing than I am. But I've probably taken part in the conception and the design in just about every single element of it. And I use it all the whole time. I am one of our biggest users. In fact, I can see Benjamin, who used to work with us, and who can go and confirm that for a long, long time, I was the absolute biggest user of this service. And then I went beyond dog fooding and making sure that I was the biggest user to making sure that all those around me were the biggest users. Dog feeding, in a sense. You guys know the dog fooding idea. So if it's good, you'll eat it, kind of thing. So anyway, if it's really good, you'll go and get other people that you love to eat it. So if my wife doesn't use Le Bon, I yell at her. And if she uses it and it doesn't work, she yells at me. So I have this really, really rapid, continuous feedback loop. But it means that, I mean, just take that as a kind of illustration. But I am constantly going on about this, which actually puts me in a pretty good position to go and talk about it and promote it. Now, if I'm good at talking about it and promoting it, it means that when we're in the early stages and a lot of this product is just what is in my mind, I'm probably going to be one of the best people at making people live it, feel it, and understand what it is, which means that I'm probably going to be pretty good at convincing people to go and give me money to go and help me develop it, which means I will probably go and get the product into development. And as I'm good at talking about it and promoting it, probably I'm going to be able to go and get other people to start using it, which means that I can go and help turn this into a success, which means that I have created value. So as the product curator, I start off in an incredibly good position to actually be the public image of the thing, and the person that at the end of the day will be able to go and help orchestrate the way that things happen. But with this arises our biggest risk, our enemy. And our enemy is, paradoxically, our brain. I have spent a lot of time in amazing meetings at Orange, there are a lot of these that go on, where product managers outcompete each other in terms of obscure use cases that they can imagine. That edge of the edge of the edge case. And there's a pride in the kind of skill that it takes to be able to go and think through the very special situation in which Madame Michu, whose battery is running out, just as she's trying to go and complete the transaction, and it happens as the network goes down and I don't know what else. And it's completely irrelevant. And the thing is that what happens is that you end up in a kind of situation where the best product manager is the one, and Alexis, you were talking about the very, very sophisticated specifications that you were able to write. And as a consultant, I was highly trained in the art of writing very long and boring documents. So I was, when I started as product manager at SFR, I was good at this, and I could outcompete people in terms of, you didn't even think of that, moron. And this is where the story turns the other way around. This is where the CEO part, I think, is so valuable. Because the CEO is constantly trying to think not about how clever his product is, but how valuable it is and what it's creating. And this is the one bit, and again, Alexis, back to your presentation on all of the metrics and the importance of those metrics. Somehow, I mean, the real important thing is trying to work out what is the return on investment on the things that we're doing. And the challenge here, the challenge is the challenge of the big picture. It's trying to go and keep an eye on what it is you're trying to do, and to be able to go and convey that message to all those who are building it, while at the same time simplifying the whole time. One line of code may look very much like another line of code. You can imagine a stone cutter, somebody chiseling away and cutting stone. You could go and ask the first one, what are you doing? I'm chiseling and cutting away and making this stone rectangular. And the second guy doing exactly the same thing, what are you doing? I'm cutting the stone so that we can go and build this wall. And the third one next to him, what are you doing? Well, I'm cutting the stone so we can build the wall to make the side of this church that is being built for the glory of God. Now, I can't prove this, but I do believe that the third guy probably has a better understanding of what the end goal is, and of what it is that is expected of him, and of making it with just that much more passion than the first guy. And there is something here in the role of CEO / product curator that is incredibly valuable, is being able to convey to the entire team the purpose of what it is they're doing, the why of what they're doing. And incidentally, when I said earlier on, I don't like management very much, the thing that's incredible is, of course, the easier or the better you are at conveying what the purpose is of something, then the less management people actually need to go and achieve it. So I think that, roughly speaking, my pitch this evening was really straightforward. It was saying that everything that we're doing to begin with, in startups definitely, revolves around the product. And therefore, you guys, or us, as curators of that thing, are in the most incredible position to actually convey its value and go and build things around it. And what we should be looking at is just adding in those extra elements that it probably takes a CEO to understand the total cost of ownership, or to understand the actual levers of value creation, and just put those back into our product definition. Challenge features that maybe would enable us just to go and massively reduce the cost of acquisition of new users through some level of virality or whatever. Those are the kinds of things that maybe are less obvious from the pure product feature, but become absolutely blatantly obvious as soon as you take the kind of CEO look on it. So anyway, having said all of that, the great news also is that all of this remains incredibly fun. And you just carry on getting to go and build Legos, products, teams, companies, and it's really, really gratifying. I love it. With that, thank you very much.